Day 12 of writing times. Updates. What are some updates? Well, I don't know. Today, I'm going to try and walk away from Eris for a little bit. I just feel he's in such a... The whole scene, I've been talking about for the past few writing days. It's way too important, and I need to do the research. And I don't know what I said on camera or not on camera. But essentially, he's being confronted with the realization of an existing order of, we'll just call them monks, I guess. Jedi, you know, basically. And it's all gonna come to a head at that point. So what I'm gonna do with that information is I am slowly compiling everything I can about the Keepers, which is what they're called, and see their growth and write their story a little bit more in depth and each character within it that matters, and basically just go through and just make sure the entirety of that situation is exactly where I want it to be. It's, you know, I was gonna remind myself, like, we don't need to rush through this. I know it's a good idea that they say, like, oh, write this many words a day, or do this, do that. Like, it's like, yeah, but, like, you know, everyone's different. Everyone's different. Everyone's stories are a little bit different, and I think it's too much to just rush through this section here. So I have a couple options of other characters I can totally explore. I got Nakum and his journey over here, which is really getting to an interesting point, and I don't even know how I feel about it yet. And then we have the unfinished, like, not even started, basically, version of Aya over here. That is going to be fucking interesting. Now, that's where we are in the book. What about other things? Our last video, or second to last. Let's go. Let's check your ad. Trust. We made it on the 5th of December. It was day 10. That got our first 2 dislikes. I've never had a dislike before. So, like, now it's getting to the point where some 2 people felt the need to, like, say that they really don't like it. Which got me going, like, at first I was kind of like, oh man, that's crazy. Because I don't dislike videos. I've never really done that, so I don't really know what that's like. But then the other part of me is like, okay, we're doing something good, because if you know what I mean? Like, if you get in such a way that you need to, like, a fucking video, you have to thumb it down. Okay, well, something on there scared you a little bit. It took me a little bit to realize that, because it's like, this is my first time doing this shit. I don't know anything about it. You know, I know nothing. Like, I'm not setting out to necessarily be a YouTuber is the thing. You know, but it's kind of like, well, I got to. I don't know. Half the time I don't even know what I'm doing here. It's like, I don't want to be a content creator. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I'm just making a fucking daily vlog for myself of the writing experience, right? But since I've been doing it, I've gained, like, I don't know, maybe 7 subscribers or more. I can't fucking say. And the video counts are going up. I'm like, okay, geez. Alright. Like, I didn't plan any of this. I was hoping I'd stay quiet for a long time. You know, max views 10. You know what I mean? So it's kind of crazy. It's like, to me, it's a bit much. I will say that. You know, I don't want a lot of views. A lot of views mean a lot of people. A lot of people mean a lot of opinions. A lot of opinions mean stupid arguing. So, whatever, we'll see. Luckily, most people don't like most people, it kind of, like, it's funny. It kind of, like, reminded me, like, when I talk about the videos, when I watch videos, I always forget to like them. If I actually like them. If I do not like them, I don't dislike them. I walk away and go, like, well, I guess I'm not into this. Click and walk. And I always forget, like, oh, I love that. Thumb up. You know, I always forget to do that. And it looks like, because I have 66 views on it and 4 likes and 2 dislikes. It made me think, like, okay, most people are like that too. Or we just don't, like, think to do that, and you might get 1 comment or 2. It really depends on what the video's about. The most comments I ever got was 2. So it kind of makes me think like, most people are like me. They don't comment and they don't like or dislike things. Normal people. That's what you got to focus on. Don't focus on those 2 dislikes. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I want to please them. It was probably because I said something about racial things, and people get scared about that stuff, which is fine. You know, that's kind of what people are made to be these days. Anyway, that's that little update. What's the topic of today? Well, the topic of today is kind of, to me, I guess I could call it a theme throughout the entirety of the books that I did not necessarily sit down and purposely like, I need to, you know, this is it. But as I've been working more and more, and you get away from the stream of consciousness, you get away from the whole in the moment creation, and you start analyzing your work, there's a huge theme in my stories of just the word forgotten. I mean, that's what the series is called, the Forgotten series. I don't know exactly why. It just kind of happened. It just felt right. I don't know. But as I go and explore throughout the journals, and I look at some lore things I made, or I look up people, the word forgotten, or things being forgotten, seems to be the biggest fucking like theme throughout the entirety of the stories. You know, there was a history that's long forgotten. There was this group of people long forgotten. There was this event long forgotten. This king. I mean, the main guy, one of the main guys, was always called the Forgotten King. I don't know why. It's mostly because when I was in the early stages of creating, I couldn't think of names quick enough. So I'm just like, I don't know, he was just a long forgotten king. And then that just stuck, because I kept forgetting to give him a name. Like, Eris was called Hero for years, until I was like, you know, he needs a name. We gotta give him a fucking name, call him something. And then, but like, he would just be Hero, 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 and then Forgotten King, Forgotten King, Forgotten King. And I never really bothered to give the Forgotten King a name until not even that long ago. Maybe a few years ago. I was like, you know, he needs names. I think I was living here, so only a couple years ago. Out of the 11-year history, like, you know, maybe give the motherfucker a name. And I gave him a multitude of names, like Dulag, Opaque, and a couple others that I still don't remember. It was kind of that idea, like, he goes by many names in many regions, you know, shit like that. I think as I'm looking around and I'm noticing that it is rather interesting, you know, what you have is, at its humblest beginnings, you have a long forgotten people protected by a long forgotten order called the Keepers of Faith in a long forgotten land. So it's like the idea was this had already happened. That's how it began, like moving from what it is now and saying, okay, well, this happened a long fucking time ago. And I think we've just always stuck with that. And as the character Eris and Nakum and Aya and some of the other subsequent characters and all that, they will always start to stumble upon forgotten things, a forgotten prophecy, a forgotten character, you know, an event in history that was long not remembered. That is become its theme. It's like, and the point of this, me saying this, is when you really sit down and you want to create something. In this case, we'll stay book-wise. I'm sick of giving examples. When you're making a book, a novel, it's probably a good idea to stay on theme with what your original intent was. Things can grow. I mean, you should see how many copies I have of the drafts, I should say, of book 1. I think there's at least 4 or 5 of them. They just went totally different directions, and I didn't know how to feel about them. And I have another one that's typed out too that went another direction. But at the end of the day, the themes stayed the same. As I move more and more into trying to unravel the story, because I think I said before, you know, I made a lot of things as much as I could, as much as I deemed necessary in that time. And then I started writing, I realized how much I really needed to know. You know, things that I never thought about. Like, I need to know motivations of characters. I need to know motivations of groups of people. I need to know exactly the events that happened. What kind of people are involved in all this? Like, the questions you don't really realize you need to know if you're making a story that's kind of, I don't want to say global, but not even, it's bigger than regional, but it's just like national, I guess. You gotta have a lot of people introduced into this national, story that takes part of a few continents. Well, there's a lot of moving parts in that, and a story is not as simple as there was a good guy who did a good thing and there was this bad guy that did a bad thing and now they're fighting. I think that's, at least in my understanding, I thought that was too ignorant to be that dead simple about it. So I always thought, like, it's probably best to make sure that there are multitudes of people with multitudes of things that are at stake. And not only that, but every person that we just mentioned has their own interpretation of what's good and bad and what happened in the world. That alone was hard enough. Like, every person you meet has a different story of what happened to this world. Like, how we all got to this point. Everyone's got their own theory that this person told them and then that person told them. And for me, it just mirrors real life. Like, you ask just some kid in school right now kind of how the world got to where it was, and then you ask someone in the 17th century or someone even like a historian now, like, everyone's kind of got their own opinion of like how the world got to be because it's their viewpoint that they have. And I think when it comes to doing that viewpoint, it's tough sometimes because you have to narrow yourself. Because as a writer, you yourself are looking at through everyone's eyes in that moment. And when you have to switch yourself into like, well, this person, that person, this person, right? Like whoever is speaking in the chapter. They all have their own way of looking at the world. And you have to stay honest with that and how that affects them. And you might not do that in your first draft because you're just trying to get the story out. But as you go through it again, my belief is there's many different personalities writhing within us. And some come and surface one day and then another surface the other day. Like, it's all the same source of self, but there's facets of self. When you go back through and look at your work, I think that's the key to it. You just find this different facet of yourself. You find the person inside of you that's very intolerant, if you have an intolerant character, and you just mirror that. And you can put someone's face on it that you know, but in reality it's you, because you only know you. You can speculate on others. Or if you have a character that's very sorrowful, and like they're full of a lot of sadness, a lot of turmoil has happened to them, you just bring forth yours, right? You say, well, then I know this, because this is what I dealt with. And anger and all the other fucking emotions and shit. There's a lot of things that are like so incredibly daunting about writing, I find, at least. I mean, maybe I'm just doing it really wrong. I don't know. But I know that it's difficult for me in so many different ways. There's like, because you try to stay honest with yourself and you try to stay honest with the story, and it's difficult. And all those different aspects can be quite difficult to keep straight in your head, you know? And it's understandable if you make mistakes and all that. But I think staying on topic with your original theme is probably the way to stay afloat in this churning sea of the unknown, I guess we could say. And like I was saying earlier, it's forgotten. It's so interesting because as I would talk about it and I said, well, I don't know, I just made the word forgotten and it just kind of stuck. As I'm getting older and older, I'm noticing I'm forgetting more and more, right? And there's giant swaths of my life that I couldn't tell you. You know, like if you were to ask me about elementary grade by grade, I don't remember much of my elementary at all. I remember like a few single events, but I couldn't tell you what grade I was in or what year that was or anything like that. I don't have it. It's gone. It went away. It compiled itself into one massive thing, which was 4 memories, and said, there's your middle school years. High school, I don't know, I can remember like maybe 12 events if I really sat and thought about it. But again, I couldn't tell you what grade I was in or nothing. I couldn't tell you any of the names of my teachers. All that shit's gone. A lot of my 20s I don't have much memory of. It's again, single events. This one happened, that one, this one, this, but not like in consecutive, like, yeah, I remember because of the year. I don't know what it is, but I'm losing that. I'm just forgetting most of my life. Feels kind of like a fog. It feels like I'm just like, and that's what gets kind of daunting and disembodying at times. Like, it feels like I've just been placed here, and my previous life was just some fake event that I, you know, half fever dream kind of was put in my mind real quick. Because I don't have much memory of my life. Now, because of that, I'd never really realized that for me it was always looking back trying to figure out aspects. Like, who the fuck am I? Why did I become who I become? And it's mostly because I'm trying to churn through these forgotten memories that are locked in here. Because the funny thing is, I know they're all in here. They're just locked in certain drawers that I don't remember how to get into. So the forgotten part has always been something I struggled with for many, many fucking years as I've been living my life. I fucking hate it. I hate it so much. I wish I could just recall things like my friends can, you know, like I'm glad I hang out with Billy and Kevin because they're like the opposite of me. They can like if I'm involved and they were there, they could tell me, oh, you remember you were doing this and that, and then this was the year and this was the month. Remember it was like raining a little bit. Like they're like that. And I am so glad they're in my lives because they can help me like remember who I am. And so when it comes to that aspect, you have this person who's forgetting his life because something's going on in here, whether it's like neurological or psychological, I don't know, whatever the other logicals are. It's unknown. But he's got a group of people that help him remain who he is. They remind him of who he was and where he's going. And like my wife reminds me, you know, who I am now and keeps me here. So that's the kind of real life I live as the author. Well then, that's kind of a lot of what the story is. But going through that event, remember I've talked about this before, that the character is my conduit that goes through the memories, right? Eris becomes the thing that allows me to explore this in another world. Through him, I enact everything that happened to me so I can kind of capture that essence and release it in there, right? I'm capturing the darkness and placing it inside of this and going away from it. But the story that mirrors it would be the story of the Forgotten King and his Aeon, which would be his like brethren, these higher beings. Just imagine the Greek gods, the Greek pantheon. Just there you go. Just don't need to think any more about it. That's all it is. Oapake is Zeus, and all the other Aeon are the other fucking gods. Thesaria is Hera. Interesting how that name was similar. But his story mirrors mine. Why wouldn't it? He's been fragmented because of an event that happened to him based upon a lie. That the Titans, which are like the Titans of the Greek mythology, remember? They fought the Titans to take dominion over Kronos and all his buddies, and then the Greek gods, but you know, they took over the world essentially, the overwatch of it. Same thing in my book. There was a great lie that was created at that point, and now all these gods are stuck in another realm because of this war they fought with each other. And the Forgotten King himself was betrayed and was told lies and is now unraveling himself through the creatures that he created on this world, which is mankind. And through mankind, through Eris and a few others, he has to make himself whole again. And in making himself whole again, he relies on the other Aeon around him to help save him. So he may come back into this realm and make all right again. Shit like that. That's like the main story. The high story. It mirrors so much how I feel about my life with my friends and my wife. And who they help me become. I know that when it comes to living a life, we are who we are, and the way that we move through the world can be based upon by outside things happening to us, but at the end of the day, it's the way we interpret it, and it's the way we go forward from that point. Like, we are always in control. We're not victims like we think we are. We're in control. Things just happen to us. We react, forms an opinion, we move on. So I understand that aspect. But I also understand, in my terms, I am, whether for good or bad, I'm not saying this is probably the best way to live. It might be wrong. I am what everyone around me tells me I am, in a sense. When I'm with them, I am what they need me to be. Burdensome as it can be, and difficult that as much as it can be, I find myself having a difficult time of knowing who I am when I'm alone. It's why it's one of the main topics of some of the last few videos, like the trust video and that questioning self video and a few others. Like, it's clear this is something that I'm struggling with, and that's why I'm speaking of it. Kind of third person, if you will. I'm speaking to myself, but I'm speaking to an audience. So that's kind of always been this major theme in my life. Is like, who the fuck are you? What are you? Why are you? And where are you going from that point? And it's like, again, going back to the story, going back to the typewriter here and saying, what is it that we're trying to say? Are we telling this story? Are we on this journey for the journey's sake? Just for the fucking thrill of it? Just for the adventure? Or are we doing it to solve something? And that's something to keep in mind. It's like, what is the theme of your work? You know, I find that it's best to ask yourself, why am I doing this? If you're working on a novel, and you're planning your novel out, and you know, you want to go the fantasy route, you want to go the sci-fi route, or maybe you just want to keep it just straight fiction. And you just, you know, like it takes place in the real world, but these fictitious things are happening. Whatever it is. And you're planning and plotting it out. You have to make sure you know exactly why you're doing it. I think, okay, like this is just my opinion. Take it as you will. I think that it's key to know the point of everything. Why you're doing what you're doing. Why your story is happening as it does. Like, you have to sit down and just like find motivations of everybody, because you have a singular character moving through the world. There's nothing going on. Finding a way to say, like, obstacles, in a sense. Place the obstacle in front of the hero, and that hero has to find a way to navigate through it. And in that, we learn about the hero as the author and as the reader. We all learn about him and see how he becomes who he becomes. How he reacts to it, and how he deals with it, and how he goes through it, and how does he feel after he accomplishes it. Are the main components of understanding character. But when it comes to the obstacle being a living person, whether that's like an anti-hero, an anti-mentor, the antagonist, or some sort of divine being that's trying to stop the hero, like when Zeus would try to stop certain heroes from their quest because he was mad at them that day for some fucking reason. Why? It's as the writer, it's like, well, why is he mad about this? And if you find that out, you find out, oh, I'm unraveling events, and here we go, we're going back, and now we're unraveling the major story that's at play. Whatever the fuck that may be. I couldn't tell you exactly what that may be. But I think in doing that, you discover motivations and what motivations are. If I have a bad group of people that their motivation is purely of confused darkness, like they're doing what they think is right, but in reality it's actually harming another group of people, I can't just say that. I have to figure out, how do they justify that? I think we kind of mentioned a little bit in the last couple of videos, you know, 2 videos ago, the trust video. How do you bring to light someone else's opinion, and how do you justify it enough to make it seem even convincing to you as the author? Like, yeah, of course, this is a good thing that they're doing. You start rooting for these guys now. And then, like, you make another group of people and you start rooting for them. Like, you want everyone to be their own good guy. And I just kind of find it, it's like, it's all really about a matter of perspective, honestly. It's all about whose eyes are you with. I'm writing the story in the perspective of Eris. What if I was writing in the perspective of Jaheir? I think you would honestly see the other side a lot different. You'd think Eris was this, like, fucking spawn of Satan. You know what I mean? Like, it's all dependent on where you're coming from in the story. And we chose a group of people, a certain group that we're going to follow. That doesn't necessarily mean anyone's wrong. And for me, the biggest experiment of doing this writing is to define what good and evil really is. I was so sick of it, and in the modern times, at least I was noticing, I was like, man, the gray is really starting to shine. We're really walking away from good and evil, and we're going into this gray, this neutral. What is good, what is bad? And I jumped on board that too, because it really helped me kind of start to define things around me, like what is good and bad. And I start to realize that good and bad is just whoever says it is. Whoever's got the loudest voice in that group will determine for us what is good and what is bad. It's all dependent on if we listen to them or not. And like I was saying in the trust video, it's all about if we get lied to and the hand is extended out for us to take and say, yeah, I'll just believe you. I'm going to go with you because you make me feel the safest in this. It's something that human beings have done since the beginning. We're just trying to go to what's safest. And in our modern world, we're not having to worry about the marauder on the road as much. We're not having to worry about our village being sacked by an invading army. We're not having to worry about things that truly fucked up mankind. It's all mind shit. Like, just anything you see, it's all about, this person makes me feel better in my race for XYZ reason. I'm going to go with them because they're the bastion of this fucking movement. And now it seems to be the racial thing. It seems to be the black against white. It seems to be the, I guess Asian too. I don't know. So as far as I hear. And what else is going on? God damn it. I don't know. The electric cars and the non, or whatever it is. Like, this stupid shit, right? Pitting people against each other. But these are the new lords of thought. These lords of thought are replacing these petty lords that were long ago when you were just some fucking serf and you just wanted to, like, be alive. But it was so dangerous. And this lord's like, come over here, I'll protect you as long as you pay taxes to me and you're in my fiefdom. That's how that started. We're just doing it of the mind now. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. That's all we ever fucking have anymore. Life becomes so stale and so simple that we still have to find ways for obstacles to be placed in front of us. We're just like that. We don't know how to stay comfortable. There is no such thing as utopia, and there never will be. These are all things that can shape your perspective on the way you see the world. So one of the main things that mankind seems to have always gone with, and is a big proponent in my story, is who do you call master? At the end of the day, when it comes down to it and you're willing to admit to yourself that you fucking actually do this instead of lying, who is it that you call your master? Because I would see this in this world so fucking much. Again, the master of your thoughts is whom? I keep saying it, I know, but I'm going back to the trust video on this one. When you allow that into your mind and you trust these beings, whoever they are, these people, I don't know, and you see these big movements happening in our world, don't like the Russians, don't like the Muslims, don't like the Jews, don't like the whites, don't like the fucking Asians, I think is one that I remember happening. Don't like the goddamn, whatever the fuck it is. don't like these things. I'm telling you not to because they're bad. They're doing this to you. They're doing that. When you're allowing that fucking person to manipulate your mind, this is where your trust is formed. How does that affect the way you now, with that indoctrination, view yourself out of the world? You notice that you're always the victim. You notice that you're the one attacked. No one ever truly realizes, I'm the attacker. Oh, everybody is always like, I didn't even see it coming. You know, do you notice that people do that? So in that aspect, when it comes to, let's go back to my book now, when I'm sitting down and thinking of the protagonist, who's the bad guy? Who's the one that is rooting against the hero all along? I thought to myself, what if it wasn't rooting against him? What if he was trying to recruit him? What if the bad guy is trying to pull you towards him to change the way you perceive? You're this fresh person that has no concept of anything because you were enclosed inside of a society that knocked everything away, right? For its own purpose. I won't get into it because that's story ruining. You'll have to read it. But you live in that life, you walk out into this world, beyond the barbarian kind of bullshit, and beyond the fucking, like, don't go out in the woods, it's scary, you know, don't go out there, like, stay in the walls. You go outside of that, and everything starts to hit you. And all of a sudden, you become faced with the idea of, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's good and bad. I don't even know who I am. You face this fucking journey, and then you're sat in front of a fucking council of people and thought, I still don't know who I am, but now they're asking me what I think. Who am I? So along the way, there's the events that happen to you. And those events shaped you, for good or bad. You were chased by this person doesn't like you, you were almost killed by that person, this person helped you. All of a sudden, that trust that you built and that distrust shapes into, okay, so I think this is a good guy, I think that's the bad guy. But when we melt away those walls of self and trust, and we realize that bad guy is not a bad guy at all. In fact, there's no such thing as a fucking bad guy. He has a different perspective. He has a different set of circumstances that have shaped him, in a sense, to what his mind tells him he should do. So you know what that is? It's called experience, essentially. We'll just call it experience to really simplify it. The life, the subjective life that you lived to thus point is your experience. And from that point, everything that you've discerned, and you found things to put in file cabinets, and you found ways to, like, okay, I'm gonna put this here, I'm gonna put that there. This is what life is for me now. I found it, I've organized it all. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys, they told me so. This one did a lot of the work for me, so I don't have to think, I just follow him, the Lord of my thoughts. And that could be someone that's like the modern stuff with the gays and the transgender. Someone else's fear rose up enough, they formed opinions, you heard it and thought, I'm just gonna listen to him. He sounds like he thinks this is right. And so you fucking believe it. Or the other version, someone that hates gays, someone that hates transgenders or whatever. You hear him, he echoes something in you, he already did most of the work, I'll just go with him. It works on all sides, all of them. From white supremacist to Black Lives Matter. From gay hate to gay love. From I don't know what else because I don't know what's happening. Muslim and Jew, right? That one too. It doesn't matter what side you choose, the fact is you chose a side. And that fact is you are allowing a group outside of yourself to dictate the way you live your life now. It could be fucking sports teams, man. You chose that team, you don't give a fuck about other teams. In fact, you watch them, you want them to get hurt so your team can win. You did that. You chose that thing. And so your experience tells you who is good and who is bad. Let's go back to the book. You know how interesting it was for me to sit down and think of every faction, every character, every fucking living being that has a stake in this. When I had to sit down and go, what is their opinion opinion on the matter? What do they think is going on? What do they think is important? Who do they think is the bad guy? When I went through that and gave everyone their own subjective feelings about the situation, it helped me realize that that's all that this ever is. In the heat of the moment, when you're afraid the most and you're in the middle of a fight, that's your fucking thing you revert back to. Well, I'll fight anyone that's against whatever it is. You roll up on a fucking group of people that are protesting that they don't like the Muslims. Okay. And you're mad enough and you want to fight, you just revert back to that. And you act out this thing, and by the time you're done, you realize, what the fuck did I just do? You put that in and you lock that into your mode of thinking. And you allowed it to kind of force you to see the world the way it is, at least to you. And that's like one of the main things that I try to always stay focused on. It's multifaceted in all the personalities that ride within your head and within my head, but it's without everyone else as well at the same time that live in this world. What the fuck do you see when you look at this with me? What the fuck is it that you can see in this world that has shaped you? And how this came to be for me is forgetting. The whole theme of the book, The Forgotten, is the fact that all of this was here and it went everywhere. And you're just trying to pull everything back in again to become whole. The Forgotten King. That's all he's trying to do. That's what the books are fucking about. That's what I'm doing as a person. And as I'm doing it and I'm learning about the different motivations of different groups of people and different people that are different than me. If you set me in a room with a radical Muslim and a radical Black Lives Matter person or whatever, I don't know, or no, Antifa or some shit, whatever the fuck they are, things that are opposite to me. At the end of the day, if we say the right things the right way and we let ourselves be and just stop fucking being fearful, all of a sudden we'll realize that it's all okay. And for me, that was the key to it. And so I thought, well, if I make a story, I want to make sure that as much as possible, every person in it, somebody can identify with. Someone can read it and be like, I just identify with fucking Slop King. Or we call him Aik Oapake. Or sorry, Aik Beovak. But the Slop King, if you can't pronounce that enough. I identify with the Anaku in this story. It mirrors the Native Americans. It mirrors, like, of course it does. If my Anaku mirror the Native Americans, why the fuck would I just and they're the Indians and no one cares and they're the bad guys? No. I'm going to make their viewpoint like, this was my world, you came here and you fucking destroyed it and you're destroying me. Like how would you not? You know what I mean? Like, you can't just make a group of people and say it doesn't matter what they think. I don't even know I think there's one Anaku that actually gets to be in my book. That gets a viewpoint eventually. Don't you think I should probably know what he feels like before I say that he's just there and he's just one of the kind of background guys that hangs out, and like at one time no. It's super important to find who you are and what the world is and how you fit inside of it. You don't have to fall in. You don't have to go join groups and kind of study them. Like, okay, I went to one of the meetings for the Antifa and this is what we talked about. You don't have to do that at all. You can do it from afar and it's okay. Just don't form hard, rigid lines about it that are undefinable. I don't support a lot of the groups out there, but I can see exactly why all of them are doing it. Because I allowed myself to say they're not the bad guy, they're just confused. And that's the main thing that we can wrap this in a bow with. It's one of the last videos we did too. It's just people are misguided. And they can't help what they do because the life that they lived was formed all around them. What are they supposed to do? They were doomed from the beginning, man. If you're able to see that You can make the change. You can't wait for someone else to. They're not gonna get it. And that change doesn't come from like you just kick this person's ass enough, or you eradicate this group of people, or you, I don't know, whatever the fuck else on the darker side of the world. That's not how you do it. And that's never how you will be able to do it. You are who you are, and so are they. Destroying something means you consume it. If you destroy a group of people because you hate them, you are consuming the thing that you hate, and you are being defined by that hate now. It's that simple. What am I going to call this video? The forgotten experience led to revelation. That's it. That'll confuse the fuck out of somebody. They're gonna like read that title and be like, what does that even mean? Watch 2 minutes of it and go like, I can't handle this. And I'll be sitting there going like, good. I do want to put this final disclaimer on it. I tend to do that a lot. I like to divert people. I like to, I don't want to say this has been shaped by it, but I saw it and I'm like, Yoda. When he tries to throw Luke off by being this fumbling idiot, and then all of a sudden it's like, I want to see how you react to me before I give you the real. I don't know if that's why I do it, but that's the same thing. It's just like throw people off in the beginning, the first 10 minutes or less, and just kind of be like a fucking idiot. But then after a while, when they all just go and walk away, you go like, okay, the ones that remain, here you go. I don't know why, but this is the disclaimer. I'm only gonna say this one time, and then I'll stop. But yeah, it is on purpose. And we shall go on and begin writing, which is not the most fun thing to do.